Hello, hello, and welcome. We are live. I am not going to do my usual intro for live streams because that just feels a little bit too energetic for what this live stream is going to be, right? Obviously, the subject matter that we're talking about here is a little bit of a somber occasion, but I figured I wanted to, let me just start off by saying I normally don't do any sort of videos talking about other countries outside of the United States. It's not because I don't like other countries outside of the United States. It's mostly because, being an American lawyer, this is my area of expertise, right? Is in the U.S. But this was just one of those occasions that just feels so historic. I mean, she was we're talking, of course, about the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch of the of Britain, and it's crazy. It's crazy, right? Because she literally like served during World War II. She took over after her father died in like the mid 1950s, if I remember correctly. Please, somebody correct me on my facts if I'm wrong. Um, but and has been basically the counterpart to the United States, across the pond since how long has it been? I mean, it's since who? Eisenhower, Truman? Like I literally was trying to like think back, like which president was the first president um that kind of like worked shoulder to shoulder with Queen Elizabeth II. Now I do, of course, understand that a lot of people view Queen Elizabeth as universally loved. Then there are those that have a difference of opinion because of different policies and things that have happened and whatnot. So, but as an American, I'm just sort of looking at this kind of from like a third party perspective, um, coming from a culture that doesn't really seem to have much of a hand in those conversations. Regardless, we are talking about a historical figure who who has been there as a sort of like a symbol of consistency for so long for the Brits, but also for kind of the rest of the world too. Like it's very strange to think of a world where Queen Elizabeth is not the ruling monarch of the United Kingdom. Now we've got King Charles III. I mean, we all kind of knew it was going to happen, but I mean, it's weird. It's weird to think that there's a king of England. It's crazy. Um, so and I like I said, I see it in the chat. I see it. There are people that feel very strongly one way or another. I do want to keep this ultimately absolutely respectful, because I know that there are a lot of Brits here that feel very very passionately about their queen, and it's a sad day. Um, Fishface 123 ism. Thanks so much for the super chat. It says thank you for covering this. She was so great. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that she was just it's the end of an era, really. Is the craziest thing about it. Um, I was starting to watch some of the coverage about her, and I was like, I might as well hop on a live stream. It makes me think of now I don't know how accurate the TV show Royals is, but that's really where I started to really dig into understanding the royal family and understanding Queen Elizabeth, how she came into her role as queen, and sort of like just the way in which she basically was this role was really thrust upon her at such a young age, and the way in which she sort of brought the monarchy in a lot of ways to uh to the modern era it was very fascinating to me, and it kind of dawned on me too that I was like, it's so crazy that like, of course, like the announcement of her death would be on social media. Oh, I said royals. It's the crown. Sorry. Thank you. I got a correction. The crown. I apologize. It's been a minute since I saw. Um, and yeah. I see it in the chat too. The crown, of course. Um, and Yeah, but it's a really good show. I haven't actually caught up on it recently, um, but yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, right? Sandra Ramirez, thank you so much for the generous super chat. Says thank you for honoring her life. She was a working woman in an era when women were largely homemakers. Yeah, that was one of the crazy things that I sort of came to learn about was that like she really had such a strange position because of that, because the culture was so different, um, and the rules allowed for a female monarch, but to have someone, that just by nature of it's like tradition forced the modernization in a way, right? Because it was just following the rules that she was the next in line, right? And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Um, But I mean, even just the fact of her coronation being televised for the first time ever, and then she had her I guess they were annual addresses, right? That were also televised. And I mean, just she was in a lot of ways revolutionary just for her role in bringing the royal family to the to the modern era, like I said. Um So yeah, it does feel very fitting that the announcement is basically getting sent out to the people through social media. Um, yeah. So anyway, it's one thing that was fascinating to me is that I mean, most most of us, I don't know. I don't know what the age demographics are exactly, but I would imagine that most of my viewers are probably um like me have never seen a a British monarch pass away, right? So to see like what is the procedure. So I was looking at this uh um online where Vice News was talking about like what are the steps, right? Like what comes next after something like this. So they said, um, you know what? I'm gonna share my screen. Why not? Because I might as well. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So the immediate impact. So I mean, this was the first page. The queen has died. What happens now? So they say the queen's successor, Prince Charles, takes over immediately. According to royal expert Dr. Ed Owens, there will be several ceremonial events designed to announce and instate the new monarch with his powers and authority, the culmination of which is the coronation. In the UK, television and radio schedules will be suspended, and special programming arrangements, usually months, if not years in the making, will be put in place. After King George VI died in February of 1952, the BBC stopped showing comedy shows and only resumed after the royal funeral had taken place. That makes sense to me. That makes quite a bit of sense. And also, too, I see in the chat for some reason StreamYard doesn't show the member chats that light up in the YouTube chat. So I can't bring it up on the screen. But Manny Fabani asked, "Can we watch some of the coverage with you?" Yes, yeah, I'm definitely going to be showing some of it. I just wanted to sort of go through some of like the facts here first, and then I'll pull on something that's being live streamed and we'll kind of go through it together, I guess. Okay, let's see what else did they say here. Queen Elizabeth photographed in 2021. The funeral. Experts say the royal funeral would take around 12 days to organize. The queen gets a state funeral, an extremely rare honor only given to monarchs or when decreed by parliament. The last non-royal to get a state funeral was Winston Churchill in 1965. An estimated 2.5 billion people watched Princess Diana's funeral. With modern technology, especially in the developing world, the number watching the Queen's funeral could be even higher. I would imagine so. I would imagine so. Following the funeral, it could take over a year for Prince Charles' coronation because it's seen as bad taste to do it too quickly. That also makes sense. Oh, there she is in 1960. The royal rebranding. According to Dr. Ed Owens, the phasing out of the Queen's face from currency and postal stamps will begin almost immediately. And that's not just in the UK, but also other Commonwealth countries. The national anthem will be immediately changed to God Save the King. It remains to be seen how the Queen's death will affect the future of the British royals. Prince Charles currently has just a 42% approval rating with the British public, but plenty of royal families have survived the death of a long reigning monarch, and it doesn't look like the Windsors are going anywhere soon. So that's interesting. Um, that's to me that answers some questions, right? Like what happens exactly? Like what's the process, right? Because for American presidents, when I feel like we've got that down pat. It happens every 4 to 8 years, right? So but that's very it's very interesting how that just takes effect immediately. And then but the ceremony I guess takes a bit longer to plan out. My guess is they probably have I would imagine that they would have had like various iterations of a plan over the years for her in case anything ever happened to her. Um, but yeah, let's engage a little bit. uh, Terry Zaletsky, thanks so much for your super chat. Says whatever politics, she had such grace and strength, tempered by wit. Loved her James Bond bit at the Olympics and her meeting with Paddington Bear. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like she definitely was a model for a stiff upper lip, right? Like I can't think of a single time that anyone has seen her like you know get overly emotional or anything, like lose it on anyone, which like, I mean, when you've got a lifetime in front of the cameras, a lifetime of living in a fishbowl, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty dang impressive, right? I mean, considering all of the stresses that she had on her. I mean, she lived through the Cold War. I mean, yeah, it's just so much, right? Like after World War II, 1950s, she takes the crown and then from that point on, everything historical that happened, like people looked to her to some extent. Man. Yeah, it's very strange to have a different British monarch, right? Even not being British, it feels strange. William Hawkins says Legal Bites coverage is on conventional network televisions, whilst other channels are not restricted. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Secret Mix Squirrel says 10 days. Okay. Salt A, thanks so much for your super chat. Says, "Rip, rest in peace to Queen Elizabeth. One of her big roles was aiding in decolonization of Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean, changing the world as we see it today." Yes, yeah, that was something that that they laid out in The Crown as well. That was just so fascinating to see how that just sort of like slowly got dismantled um, through the course of her reign relatively early on and trying to figure out like what do I do with this? How do I end this in a way that is decent for everyone involved, hopefully. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people have opinions on it, people that are much more intimately aware of the facts um of the facts of the of these events, but Reese's Weirder, thanks so much for your super chat. I appreciate that. Um, Kit Kat says, it is fitting that she passed away peacefully in a place she loved and felt closest to Philip at Balmoral. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I I would imagine that she probably missed him dearly. So it's, I there's a bit of a reunion that can happen now, depending on what you believe, right? Um, oh, Kitty says that a ceremony has already taken place. The rest of the royal family declares allegiance to the new monarch by nodding, bowing, curtsying, and declaring God save the king. Ah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense, and I do remember. I'm sorry. I keep drawing from the TV show. I feel so silly and shallow by doing that, but I do remember that being a moment when, like, her sister Margaret curtsies to her, and sort of like everyone sort of has to have this, like, weird adjustment, in the moment after their father died. Um, but that's yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um Sorry, just looking through the chat here. When World War II was over, she was only 16. Is that the case? Um, that could be, but I do remember that she worked as a mechanic though, nonetheless. So I do remember learning about that. Yeah, Secret Mix Squirrel, the stuff she's seen in her time. I mean, that is a very, very full life, right? Incredibly full. She reigned for 30% of the life of the USA. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Manny Fabani, thanks so much for the super chat. Says she oversaw Britain's transition from an empire to a modern state. I think she symbolizes the balance between maintaining tradition and progress. 100%. Absolutely would agree with that. Yeah. Um, yeah, William is next in line, then George. I remember seeing that. Yeah. So yeah, that means Prince Harry technically is still in line, but he's like number 6 or something because it's first King Charles and then Prince William and then his 3 children, and then it would be uh Prince Harry so far. Ah, Kit Kat says the Queen once said, "Grief is the price we pay for love. She will be missed by many." Yes. That's such a beautiful quote, and I do absolutely agree that, when you love someone, ultimately you're going to be grieving grieving your separation from them one way or another, right? Um, it's such a sad quote, but yeah. Cheryl Maston, thanks so much for your super chat. Says she was amazing given that she had this put upon her at such a young age. She was so good at coming to the middle when needed. Yeah, I just yeah. The fact I mean, I think she was actually technically on her honeymoon when it happened, right? Wasn't she in South Africa when she found out that her father had died? Like, she was on tour with Prince Philip. I do remember that. And just finding out when you're on the other side of the world that something has happened, I and then all of a sudden you're queen. Oh, man, that's crazy. But absolutely. I mean to have taken on the role that she did and not making the youthful mistakes that most of us would probably make. And like I said, oh, Kenya. I'm sorry. Yeah, folks are saying in the chat that that was Kenya. Manny Fabani, thanks for the super chat. Says 1945 minus 1926 equals 19. She was an adult during D-Day. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so yeah. Uh, let's see here. Let's get Let's do some of this coverage here. You guys wanna watch some coverage with me? Oh, okay. It wasn't the honeymoon, but it was Commonwealth tour. That makes sense. That does make sense. Ah, Kenya, the saying goes, "She went up the tree a princess and came down a queen." Yeah. So let's see what some of this coverage is saying. Alrighty.
Confidant and advisor. Their marriage was an enduring partnership, a sentiment
And
she
I just
shared
realized
on
my
their
sound. I don't know if
50th
you guys can
wedding
hear it.
anniversary.
My
All
sound
too often, I
is
fear Prince Philip
not
has had to
coming
listen
through
to
my
me
AirPods.
speaking. But he has quite simply
There we
been
go.
my strength and stay all these years.
73 years of marriage spent side by side.
73
and at his
years. That's a
funeral,
long
the
time.
poignant images of the Queen, due to COVID protocols, seated alone. She will be remembered for a lifetime of unwavering service to her country. Perhaps Prince Charles put it best on the night of his mother's Diamond Jubilee.
As a nation, this is our opportunity to thank you and my father for always being there for us, for inspiring us with your selfless duty and service, and for making us proud to be British.
The Queen is dead. Long live the King.
And Terry Moran joins us now. Terry, you were an American, moved over to live and work in London, and you had the honor and the privilege of covering the Queen. And curious about your reflections on the passing of this incredible monarch.
Really incredible, Amy. And I moved to London in 2013 without any particular feeling one way or the other about Queen Elizabeth as an American, as somebody who hadn't really focused on. By the
Probably 'cause
time
you just
I
wanted to
left,
live in the
I had
UK.
grown truly to respect her and to understand Britain, her country, her people better because of her. She showed up to work every day in their service. And in some ways, her personality, the way she carried herself, the values that she lived and demonstrated every single day influenced the personality of people that live in that country, of the British themselves. And it's been great listening to all the people with personal memories and a sense of personal connection to this monarch. And that was really her signature. She is a historic figure who operated through soft power, really. When she became queen, the British Empire was falling apart. And one of the things that made her one of the most important people of the 20th and 21st century was how she herself, in her role, managed that transition. There's that famous image of the young Queen Elizabeth dancing with Kwame Nkrumah, who is the first leader, the president of Ghana. That demonstrating that there would be a family of nations, no longer ruled by an empress or a monarch themselves, but together in a commonwealth. Her own role, the way that she carried herself on all of those
I sent
trips
you a link
around
if
the
you want to
world
join.
helped
I
define
don't know what you're up to.
that commonwealth was and is. And today, really, there's a question about what it can be without her. She was a remarkable woman. I am lucky to have covered some big events, Brexit and the Scottish independence referendum, where she never took a formal position. But where part of the debate was, what does it mean to our queen that we might do this? People voted their own minds and hearts, but they knew that she, too, would be part of whatever they decided. And that influence is immeasurable, and it cannot be replaced.
Well, Terry, I hope you don't mind us saying you cover a lot of tough stories, a lot of breaking news. You're in front of the Supreme Court a lot of times. We don't often get an opportunity to get a smile out of you, but just to see you in that moment, reporting here, really, you talk about the impact. Everybody has a personal story or feel a personal connection, but when those words came out of your mouth, it was an honor to get a chance to cover her, and that smile comes over your face. I think to our audience and to a lot of folks will agree that just that smile on your face that you don't get to show us on TV often, man, says a lot.
She put the smile on, and
she
put
did
a smile
represent
on
tradition.
people's face because of the way she was, and I am lucky to have been there. Thanks, DJ.
Well, that's great to see there, and again, because of the impact she had, wrote on so many people. You can
if
argue
you want,
that
I can
all day
I
once
can
we
put
got
on
that
something different.
statement. It was lunchtime in London when that statement came out that the doctors
Get a
were
different
concerned.
perspective on it.
You could argue that all day there's been kind of a cloud over Buckingham Palace, over London. Until because even the rain was coming down, but as we got word that she had passed, something happened at Buckingham Palace. And look, for a lot of folks, you might not think this is the biggest deal of the day, and it's not worth talking about, but there was something symbolic and beautiful that the clouds broke, and literally a ray of sunlight came over Buckingham Palace. And the first thing out of your mouth to me, as soon as I said the
sun was
shining,
out and it had been raining, I said, please tell me there's going to be a rainbow.
And there is your rainbow. Sure enough, you all, this is just an incredible image. Look, we always know storms will come and go, but there always is going to be a light at the end of their tunnel or some hope that comes out of it. And yes, this is going to hurt for a lot of folks for a while that the Queen has passed. But she left that royal family, and people argue she's left Great Britain in a much better place than it has ever been.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just incredibly symbolic. And I think a lot of people look at that as something that she would have said on her passing. You know, after the rain, there's a rainbow. After the storm, there is sun. And so she meant that for so many people. She was hope. She was stability. She was something that.
All right. We are going to look to, what does BBC have to say? That's probably appropriate, right? Let's see. Are they live still talking about this? Of course, they have to be, right? I'm gonna just well, here's this. That's it's not a live stream coverage, but this is about Queen Elizabeth, constant presence in a changing world. Yeah, let's check this out. I think this would be good. This is from BBC.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
"27 years old. I can't even imagine."
Outside the palace, 100,000 people surged forward in a solid mass. They wanted Elizabeth. They wanted Philip.
"15 prime ministers." Jeez.
Good evening, Your Majesty.
I've just been talking to your Secretary of State for Health.
14 US presidents.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
It's one small step for man.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. With the benefit of historical hindsight, we can all see things which we would wish had been done differently, or not at all.
Wow. Wow. What a life, right? That is just absolutely wild. Again, the things that she's seen. Yeah, I am looking for. Oh, maybe it's because it's BBC News. Maybe BBC. There's a second BBC channel. Let's see here. There is a second BBC channel. I should have known. Okay. Let's see. I still don't see anything that's live, though. Interesting. So I think folks that are British can probably help me out here just to make sure that this is accurate. But I think he's already King Charles III, right? Like he's already being addressed as such. So oh, I see in the chat Sky News. Okay. Yeah, I'll try Sky News. All right. Let's see. Oh, yes. They are live. Okay. Let's get that.
Father and the abdication of her uncle. Her father was now king.
Can you guys hear that?
And Elizabeth, his heir. Her role for life was set, and her approach to it shaped by the Second World War.
Okay.
Clear even in her first broadcast when she was evacuated to Windsor.
My sister Margaret Rose and I feel so much for you, as we know from experience what it means to be away from those we love most of all.
The keep calm, carry on philosophy was absolutely embedded in her, I think.
The princess became a member of the ATS.
She joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service as others went off to fight.
Lieutenant Mountbatten seems glad to be back at work again.
Wartime also sparked the most important relationship of her life. She kept in touch with Prince Philip by writing letters. And in 1947, they got engaged. A glamorous young couple. Their wedding was celebrated
Manny
across
Fabani.
the country.
It is crazy that he was a Greek royal. Thanks for the super chat.
Soon, Prince Charles was born, followed by Princess Anne.
They're taking the places of the king and queen who would have gone but for His Majesty's illness.
But duty called.
I saw reports that
was ill,
Meghan Markle isn't.
his place
She's not going to be there. She's not coming. That's what I heard.
To the stunned heart of London and to the whole Commonwealth came the tragic news from Sandringham of the passing of a beloved sovereign, King George VI.
In a remote lodge in Kenya, Prince Philip told her the news. She was now queen.
All accounts say that she gulped, gathered herself, a grieving daughter, but also now the queen, in a way that she could never have imagined. And of course, in her early 20s at the time.
The following year came her coronation, broadcast for the first time on television.
She was very conscious of the fact that she needed to be out there, to be visible, going right back to televising the coronation.
Only 26, Queen Elizabeth still had to prove herself to courtiers, politicians, and the country. Years later, she described how it felt.
In a way, I didn't have an apprenticeship. My father died much too young.
Yeah.
It was all a very sudden kind of taking on and making the best job you can.
From the very start, she felt she had to get out and connect with the public.
The Queen and Duke now took their places.
Through thousands of engagements and inventing the walkabout.
Whether the lollipop lady or you know, you were a president or a prime minister of a nation, people become nervous. And it was wonderful to see how Her Majesty would put them at ease.
Always calm, even when blanks were fired at Trooping the Colour. The Queen was constantly on duty, with constitutional responsibilities and weekly audiences with her prime ministers.
For someone who'd been a little boy in the streets of Durham waving a flag when she drove through in the 1960s, and suddenly there you were, you were prime minister, virtually alone of all the people that you knew anything that you said to her stayed within the room.
I can't imagine it must have been such a lonely experience too.
The principle of listening to what she thought Churchill might have done in similar conditions or circumstances to what I found myself in. It was those sort of conversations that I learned a huge amount from and will treasure forever.
Really nice comments, including one from President Biden.
Oh, that's very kind.
As every day there were red boxes full of state papers to deal with.
Do we think that this is a good idea? Do we know what it's about?
She was a wonderful boss. We used to put up a red box every evening, and we knew that she would have been through them and it would be back on our desk the next morning at 8 o'clock.
Amazing.
It was extraordinary how she did this day after day throughout her reign.
It wasn't just matters at home. As head of the Commonwealth and queen of other realms, she travelled more than any other head of state.
I remember going to Uganda for the Commonwealth Heads of Government Conference, and from the airport to the hotel, I don't think I've ever seen crowds like it.
Always conducting her own powerful form of soft diplomacy.
I did get a sense how concerned she was sometimes about some of the conflicts, some of the challenges. She can have a personal conversation, which, helps to move on some really quite difficult and tricky political moments.
I think we haven't kept you waiting. Very nice to see you. Yeah.
They melt around her. And I've seen the strongest men just literally sort of become putty in their fingers. They are all in awe of her.
Hey, Kurt, how's it going?
Hey, it's a pretty momentous day.
Yeah.
The Queen is head of
August
15 countries, and so that is a significant chunk of the world.
The first British monarch to visit the Republic of Ireland in 100 years. She was a figurehead of unity.
She's a major
and
uniting
stability.
influence.
She never wavered
And probably
from
the
duty
reason the United
or
Kingdom,
service.
at least for the moment, remains
And
the
in
United Kingdom, because you
uncertain
guys will
times,
remember a
people
couple of years
need
ago,
anchors.
there was a vote from Scotland to split
We've
off.
lost one of our
And I
most
think the
important
Queen's
I'm very glad to
presence
be
was a
able to
major reason
join
that
you
didn't
today.
happen.
There at times of national tragedy.
Yeah, it'll be
including the
interesting to see what
coronavirus
happens moving
pandemic.
forward.
Adapting the way she worked to reach
I wouldn't
out,
be able
set
to.
an
I'm
example,
not
and
not
rally the nation with
versed
messages
enough
of
in
resilience.
We should take comfort
relations within
that
the
while we may
UK
have
to
more still
be
to
able to
endure,
speculate beyond
better
that.
days will return. We will be with our friends again.
Man,
We will
Don
be with our
Baca.
families
I
again.
still remember I wasn't when the
We will
king died
meet
as well.
again.
Her Majesty is
That's-
the warrior queen. She has done it. She's been
wild.
there. And Her Majesty dressed the nation. It's the empathy. We're all in this together, but it's going to be okay.
My grandfather broadcast the first of
The fact she
these
worked as a
Christmases.
mechanic in World War II is
Her
endlessly
Christmas
fascinating.
broadcast every
Yeah.
year was her chance to send
Yeah, that
a
was
personal
that's one of the
message.
most interesting things,
It's
I
no
think.
surprise that families so often treasure their Christmas routines.
Because behind the formality was an utterly devoted wife and mother.
Prince Andrew, 5 last February, probably feels quite senior now that he has a baby brother.
Family is very close together, and we do enjoy spending time. And she's always made time all the way through her life, and yes, there have been those particular moments of the year when that very much comes first.
When we were very young, obviously, it was harder for her to have so much time, and we were obviously living elsewhere as well, so we were never really all together in the same place. But whenever we had the family moments and we met up, she'd be very keen on watching what the children were up to. And
Yeah, I just
think
want
there
to
were
mention
moments when
this
she loved the
again
noise and running
for
around
the
the house,
folks that
kind of
are
brought the house to
new in the
life, and
chat.
it kind of made a real
Kit
family
Kat, thank you for
atmosphere.
mentioning this. Please keep it respectful for those who didn't like the monarchy. Please respect those that did. If you want to have conversations about various aspects, I know that there are people
While
that have
she
some
was
very
head of
strong
state,
opinions.
Philip was head of the
That's fine. That's
family
not what this live
and a
stream is
youth.
about. We are just sort of marking a very momentous day because this is a very big day in history.
With a different relationship than many people
So
have.
we do want to keep it respectful.
But he learnt to live with that. It's difficult to be a monarch with the degree of responsibility that you have without a very good partnership to back you up.
When there were tough moments, if he was around, it was hugely important. You could see them working a crowd or working a walkabout.
You watch it, they'll stop you. But
It wasn't planned, it was instinct. They both had the same metabolic clock, I think.
In 2021, she said goodbye to her beloved
Man.
husband and dedicated consort.
Wow.
They're married for a long time.
Yeah, they were married for 70 years, they said.
Yep.
And I know that, I mean, their marital troubles were very well documented, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the fact that she maintained a lot of consistency, or sorry, you know, the fact that she remained steadfast in her marriage. I mean, sure, people will have opinions about that too,
People
right?
have opinions about anything.
Yeah, true. Very true. So yeah.
The Queen, I
And
think, led a very sort of quiet reign. She never really publicly stated her opinion on pretty much anything. She was very sort of quiet in that respect. I mean, there's nothing stopping her from, you know, getting a microphone and expressing an opinion. Of course, if she were to do that, that has massive potential repercussions. So for better or worse, she never did that and allowed the elected government to do its thing.
yeah.
And she just served as a very sort of quiet, stabilizing influence. That was her
Yeah.
view of what the monarchy should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's very, I think, strange for a lot of people. I mean, yeah, someone in the chat said, you know, it's been quite a week, right? Because they've got a new prime minister. Now they've got a new king. Like,
Yeah.
you go from that strong consistency over literally decades, and then all of a sudden everything changes like instantly. It's crazy. It's crazy. So you know, and you know, like I said, this is not to comment on any sort of policies or anything, because I don't know enough to know about you know, British foreign policy. I would never venture out to make any kind of comments about that. Um it's just yeah, it's just marking a moment, you know. Britain is a strong, you know, partner with the United States, so I consider the Brits to be very close allies to us, right? Um, and so I feel a certain kinship with the
Right.
Brits. I don't know about you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, you know, when something like this happens, it's like it's kind of wild. It's like, you know, being you know, very interested in Prince William and Princess Kate, you know, in their wedding. I just it's Americans, we often have like this kind of a fascination with the Brits, just because, especially with the royal family, because we don't have anything like that. So, you know, consistency beyond 8 years, what is that? I mean, other than I guess you could say we've got basically a fourth branch that's sort of like mysteriously cropped up, you know, like kind of like become that sort of like invisible hand of like the administrative state. But like,
Yeah, ask me about my thoughts on the administration at another time, right?
yeah, another time. But yeah,
I don't think
but
that
yeah.
I don't think the death of a president has the same effect, because although the president is head of state and head of government, you know, his role as head of state is not what we think of. We think of his role as head of government. And so when the president dies, I mean, it's a big deal, but it doesn't quite have the same, I think, impact. I mean, she's a figurehead, but she's also a figurehead. The fact that she's gone means there's no longer that uniting, stabilizing influence. She served through 15, you know, prime ministers in 15 countries, which has had a stabilizing influence through a lot of tumultuous changes. The changes she's seen in the world has been just amazing. I mean, she saw the advent of commercial air travel. She saw the advent of TV, of
Space
the
travel.
internet, space travel. She saw the advent of the internet, social media. I mean, her reign was probably the most impactful in terms of the difference between what the country was when she started and when she ended. I mean, because the
Yeah.
technological change has been massive.
Yeah.
And
And I
various countries of the Commonwealth have from time to time at least talked about the concept of abandoning monarchy, and that hasn't happened, I think, in large part because of her. And so, what happens going forward for the monarchy, what happens going forward for the United Kingdom, whether Scotland continues to be part of the United Kingdom. I mean, I think these are now more than they were, earlier today, more questions that are, in play.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree. And I can only imagine. I mean, especially those early years when she was literally 27 at her coronation, is what they
Yeah.
said. That is such a young age to be like to suddenly have this surprise. I mean, not that it's completely a surprise. She knew that one day, or she probably figured that one day she would end up being queen, but like not at that age, right?
I mean,
Not
Charles is
not before.
73, right?
Say what?
Charles is 73. So, I mean,
Is he
that,
really?
yeah.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's a pretty big
I mean,
difference.
yeah, massive difference. I mean, he's been through, going through the changes of parenthood, going through, I mean, he's already got grandchildren, like he's gone through his life mistakes that have been very well publicized, the divorce from Diana,
Yep.
the affair with Camilla, then, getting remarried and yeah, I mean, there's been all kinds of things that he's gone through that at least he didn't have the weight of like the sovereign, because it's almost like when you're the when you are filling that role of the sovereign, it's like you can no longer like be a human being in a lot of ways, because it's
Mm.
you're also the state. Like it's like your country in a way relies on you. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
obviously she's a figurehead. She's not,
Which I think in some ways makes it worse. It's like you're in this weird position where, at least it seemed from Elizabeth's behavior, it seemed like she felt that she couldn't really do anything. I mean, that would be my interpretation, because she
Yeah.
never did anything. I mean, at least publicly. I mean,
Hmm.
what conversations she had privately, who knows? But
Hmm.
she never went out and expressed like opinions on whatever.
Yeah. Well, someone said in the chat earlier that the monarch is considered like the mother or the father, and it's like they're not supposed to give their opinion. And
Yeah.
so they're supposed to remain apolitical. I like that.
Yeah,
I
this
do like that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd be a very good king of England. I'm not sure that they should appoint me.
I don't
Appoint
think
me.
so either.
I don't think. I'm not sure I'd be the greatest choice.
I don't think so either. I think I'm amazed by her work ethic. The fact that she worked day in and day out. Can you imagine? You
Mm.
never get a break from being the queen. Like every single day she had a box of papers that she had to go through, and she had to, work through those and set them aside every single day of her life, from when she was mid to late 20s to the end of her life at
Yeah.
96. That's a lot. That's I don't know that I'd be able to do that. I
Yeah.
don't know that I could. Let's let me go through some super chats here. Tune in, drop out. Thanks so much for the super chat. Says historic events are rarely understood in real time. Time will tell how the monarchy fares under Charles and how long they remain relevant and influential.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. No idea where things will go in the future. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people are in shock. I've seen it in the chat. Folks that are from the UK are just absolutely shocked. I mean, I saw, however many hours ago on Twitter, when I started to see that the doctor was keeping keeping her under medical attention because they were concerned.
Mm.
And then as soon as
Yeah, when the
as soon as I
British
saw
use the
that the
word like
royal
concerned,
family,
you know it's not going well, because that's one of those classic British understatements, right? We're in a bit of a bother. Oh, okay, the world's coming to an end. Okay.
yeah, like this is somewhat concerning, meaning this is probably
Yeah.
dire circumstances.
I know how to translate
Man-
British into English. Yeah.
Mantha Johnny, thanks so much for becoming a YouTube member. Welcome to Bike Club. Happy to have you here. Josh D says, someone get Runkle, Viva, or Black Belt Barrister on. I gotta know how
Love
they're
that Black Belt
reacting.
barrister. I'd love to see what he had to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I would imagine he probably has all kinds of thoughts. Tish in Tennessee says, keep calm, carry on, something to aspire to be. 100%. 100%. Aaron Catron says, may she rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace. And thanks for the super chat. Oh, and Mantha Johnny says coming back because somehow it fell off. Yeah, it sometimes it does that. Memberships will do that. But happy to have you back. BG Willia 21207. Thanks so much for the generous super chat. Says, remembered back in the 70s during the Queen's Silver Jubilee, a group of British fighter bombers buzzed our U.S. airfield on their down for their formation flyover in London. Quite a show. That's awesome. That is, I'm sure that must have been one heck of an experience. Myra M. JFK death was the only president to have an impact. I mean, that was also just so publicly violent and sudden and, like just absolutely shocking also. So yeah, no, for sure. Michael Jones, who will become Prince of Wales? Oh, I don't know.
I feel like I'm being tricked with that kind of question.
I know.
Probably not me. I don't think. No one's asked.
That we can be certain of. Man. Tish in Tennessee, thanks for the super chat, says, think about getting a job with massive responsibilities at his age. My mom, who is 79, and I cannot imagine it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, they're saying William. So William will be the Prince of Wales. Oh, that makes sense. Duh.
I don't know what that means, though. What does that actually?
That makes sense.
I don't know what that means.
I don't. I don't.
Other than it's just being is it just a title to
Yeah.
have for the sake of having a title? Does it mean anything? I mean, practically, probably not.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm just trying to gather some super chats here. Tish in Tennessee, welcome to Bike Club. Happy to have you back. Welcome to being a YouTube member. Oh, they're saying it means he's next in line. That's what folks are saying. So being the Prince of Wales means that he's next in line. Okay. Pammy, thanks so much for the super chat. Says she grew up thinking she was going to be minor royalty, then was thrown into the role by fate. What a grand lady, as President Trump
That's
said.
right. She was. Yeah, she wasn't supposed to.
She was a grand lady. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because wouldn't it have been?
Yeah, because his
her
male
uncle
primogenitor
was supposed to be.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Until as Gibson was telling me, until 2017 or something, when that was changed.
And that's why he was so like sort of like shunned almost by the royal family, because of the fact that he decided to step away instead of serving. And so that's why her father served as king. That's right. Okay, now I'm remembering. That's yeah, crazy. But then, like, in a way, he almost like at least according to the Crown. Again, I'm pulling from my viewing of the Crown, which may or may not be accurate, right? But it seemed to me that, like, even like she almost had like this complicated relationship with her uncle then, because it was like, everyone else was sort of like PO'd at him, right? Because of the fact that he was like because the fact that he decided to sort of like step aside and do his own thing and not do his
I
duty, right?
understand that. It's like I don't think it's that good a job, man. I think peace out makes a lot of sense. Like it's just like I'll be like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, but if you're born into it though, I mean that's
Yeah, I'm
that's
sure you
that's
think
what's
about it
expected
differently.
of you.
No one's
You
offered it to
know?
me, so I've not had the opportunity to turn it down. So yeah.
Fair point, fair point. But he almost then became like the only person that she could talk to, it seems like, to sort of understand the experiences that she was having as the monarch. So
Yep.
it's yeah, very, very interesting to me. William Hawkins says our armed forces swear to defend the monarch and fight for them, not the politicians. Yeah, that
Correct.
makes sense. That makes sense. Sarah Cartland says Queen Elizabeth gave more than 70 years to her country as princess and queen. I'm heartbroken at our loss. No other monarch has given so much to her country. She is at last with her darling Philip. Yeah. Peggy Cole says he will also get all of Charles' property and money. Talking about William, I guess?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because there are landowners, and so there is monetary benefit to that. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. The crown is as accurate as the West Wing. I kind of assumed so. That's why like I'm very sheepish about even referencing it because I feel like there's probably like not much not much accuracy um to it and that's like like I said I feel very very sheepish about it. Peggy Cole, thanks so much for the super chat. Says King Charles will also have to name William as Prince of Wales as well. Okay, so he's not like automatically bumped up, I guess.
Yeah, but if he were to not do that, that's the kind of thing that leads to revolt and so forth and so on. It's like the hypothetical powers that they have and the realistic powers they have are very different.
Fair,
So.
fair. William Hawkins says her uncle Edward the Eighth. Sorry, I always have to count Roman numerals. Edward the Eighth abdicated to marry a commoner divorcee, while a Simpson becoming king killed George the Sixth. That was the understanding that I got to from that, was that like they also like that was like the added sort of intensity against Edward, was that they were like, he would still be around if not, like if you hadn't abdicated to marry that American divorcee and live off in New York and have your your happy go fun times with her. So I can understand that.
The fact that
Titian
as
Tennessee.
king you can't marry the person that you love is so bizarre. So it's like, aren't I supposed to be like king? It's like, and I can't marry who I love. This is BS. So yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. No, I for us it's a very foreign concept, right? Because like no American has that real no American has like those kind of restrictions, at least not that I'm aware of.
No, not really.
Yeah. Oh, Titian Tennessee says, just so you're aware, this is the third time I have had to sign back up. It happens with your channel, Kurt's and Ian's. I have no idea. Oh, thank you for letting me know. I
We're
wonder
not
why YouTube is
loved.
doing that. I don't know why that's happening. But thanks for letting me know. Peter Larkin, thanks so much for the super chat. Says she met 14 sitting U.S. presidents. Yeah, that's crazy. That she's just like, well, here's another one. Man. Interesting. Oh, Don Baca says that the Duchy of Cornwall is a huge revenue producer, about $9 million per year, I believe. The monarch retains the Duchy of Lancaster, which generates a similar amount for the reigning monarch. Yeah, the economics of like how the family pays for itself is my understanding. Like they pay for themselves is very interesting to me because, like I said, like we've got
Very definition of old money. It's the
yeah.
land constantly supporting the royal family. So yeah.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that. Well, I mean, other than like old money families, but nothing like really tied to the state, at least not that I'm aware of. Fun Time says in the chat, I didn't get any notifications. I just saw you were live because I was looking for something else. Oh, well, sorry YouTube is doing that, but I appreciate that you're here. Melissa Hughes says, wasn't there something to do with him getting in with the Nazis too after he abdicated?
That's outside my knowledge.
I don't know. I know that there were some controversies post-war with I think Philip's family, like his father or something, but I don't know if Edward was also implicated in those kinds of connections. I'm not sure. But yeah. That would be beyond my knowledge. So, man, crazy. But anyway. Yeah, imagine your family ruling for 1,000 years is what LB says. That's crazy.
Yeah. But it's a major stabilizing influence. And it's one of the bases, their bases of U.S. law. It's one of the reasons, like when you talk about constitutional rights, the constitutional rights, where they come from? Well, they come from the UK. We talk about the freedom of speech. Well, what is the freedom of speech? Well, it's the one that pre-established. Okay, pre-established from where? Well, the UK. Okay, what is it? Let's go consult the last 700 years so I can give you a more in-depth answer. I find that endlessly fascinating, and that you have this continuous legal tradition since time immemorial, which is defined in law. I always forget the exact year, but it's like 1179 or something when like legal history technically legally begins or something like that. And so ever since then, there's this continuous legal tradition which permeates all the Commonwealth countries. And it's one of the reasons that if you or I, for example, are seeing something that happens legally in one of the Commonwealth countries, we at least have some sort of common legal heritage that we can work from to at least understand it on some level. So it's not a completely foreign thing. It's like, well, I understand this a little bit because we have the same derived history. So I can read a Canadian opinion or read a New Zealand opinion, at least kind of get what's going on. And the fact that it's so central to our own legal tradition in the United States is pretty cool.
Yeah. It is. And I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of feel sort of a connection to the UK, is because our legal system is I mean, it's based off the Brits, right?
Yeah, based off common law. It's like, yeah, that's where it comes from.
Yeah. I mean, except for Louisiana, which is based off of the Napoleonic Code.
The less about Louisiana, the better.
I know.
Is it even really a state?
I have yet to touch any kind of Louisiana law, and I'm kind of okay with that because it just intimidates the crap out of me. But if you talk to a French lawyer, they will say, of course, that their code, their laws are the best because it's all organized according to a code, and they don't have this like crazy wild west of like courts creating law.
This is the part where I start hating on the French, which is also very British. So I got that going for me. Damn French.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, but it's the idea though that your family is reigning for 1,000 years. I mean, it means that you also just grow up understanding that your family is not just your family, right? Like I said earlier, like when you become the monarch, you're not just a person anymore. You also are the state, but it's like your family to a certain extent has to grow up to live to serve the state. And, you can see instances in each generation of people rebelling against that to a certain extent, because it's like, that's a really, really difficult sort of code to live by, especially one that you haven't chosen for yourself. I can only imagine how that can impact a person's psychology as they're kind of going through their lives, you know?
Yep.
Man.
Elizabeth seemed to handle it well as far as I could tell, but I don't know, man. I think it would drive me nuts. At least the way that I, but I didn't grow up in it, so that's a bit unfair.
The what? Sorry, say that one more time.
I didn't grow up in it, so I mean, if I had grown up in it, I would be a different person. But from my
Yeah.
perspective, I think it would just drive me crazy. The fact that I'm supposed to represent something and I'm not allowed to really speak and express my opinion, and I'm not really supposed to do anything. Like all these theoretical, hypothetical powers I have, if I ever use any of them, it's going to spark a constitutional crisis. And that's just not good news. Like,
it's hard. Yeah.
How is it
Yeah.
that the queen seems to be like the least free person in some of these situations? She is like, because she represents the state as such, and so she's less free. It's like that's no good.
Yeah. It's a weird sort of yeah, it's a weird sort of situation when you think about it, right? It just seems very, very ironic.
Yep.
When you think about it. I'm looking for while we're talking, I'm doing multiple things at once, which is always a recipe for disaster. But I'm looking for the statement from King Charles III because I know that folks have said that
Their own
he
statement there was like a 2-sentence statement. The statement was that the queen passed peacefully and that he's going to remain in Scotland for the rest of the day and return to London tomorrow. I mean, that was the paraphrase. It was a very, very short statement, unless he said something else in the last hour.
Okay. No, I think it probably was just that one. Okay, so yeah, so I was looking for like the actual image of it, but I'll read it. Yeah, it says, "This is the statement from King Charles III following the death of his mother, the Queen. The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world." During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held.
Okay, so he did say something else in the last hour, so I take back my previous quasi-snark.
Got it. So yeah, there you have it. So yeah, that's a sad day for the royal family and for the British people too.
Yeah. And I think
know
this is
that
going to,
there's-
I think this will have political repercussions. I don't think immediately. Well, there's going to be economic impacts that are going to be significant. People are going to go through a mourning period. There's going to be loss of work. There's going to be uncertainty. So this is going to cost billions of dollars by the time we're done in terms of total economic impact. I think the political impact is very real. I think that this, I think that the United Kingdom will and the Commonwealth will not be the same 20 years from now as it is today. I think Charles's reign will have some notable events in it. Would be my prediction.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, so many changes happened during Elizabeth's reign. So I would imagine the possibilities for Charles's reign would also be there would be plenty of opportunities for changes that we can't particularly foresee at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Lucky, thanks so much for the super chat. Says, thank you for your positive stream. Thought I wasn't going to be affected, but yeah, really sad this evening. Well, my condolences to you, Lucky. Yeah, I'm happy to just chat because this is it's a historic day for sure. Jenny Harris, thanks so much for the super chat. NM says Quebec is also civil law.
Yeah. They sure are. That's why they're strange. They're even more
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. Yeah. More French influence, I think. Jenny Harris, thanks so much for the super chat. Says Prince Philip bought to get his last name for his children, so they're known as Mountbatten Wales. That's right. Yeah, I do remember hearing about that, about how that was really important to him, because it was like it kind of was that dynamic of like her being the sovereign but also being a woman. And so there's like there's traditions on either side of it that just are automatically going to be butting heads, right? Just by virtue of this convergence of facts. So crazy. Data Nerdtastic says the royal family name is Saxe Coburg Gotha. They changed it to Windsor in World War I. Philip brought Mountbatten to become Mountbatten Windsor.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'd long forgotten that little bit of tidbit history. So yeah, that's a deep cut for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Michael Jones, thanks for the super chat, says, I have missed you all so much since the daily coverage of the Depp trial. You all became family to me. Yeah, well, thanks for the super chat, and thanks for
I miss it
coming
too.
in.
We need more
Yeah.
trials.
I know. I know.
We got the next ones coming up are probably either De Belvallo in January or Murdoch, which might also be in January now, it looks like. So that's fun. And in October, the Crumblies, I guess maybe I'll wind up covering that. So we'll see.
That'll be good. Good to get some more trial time. Beth Cunningham, thanks so much for your super chat. Says, condolences to all of our British friends during this time of mourning. May your memories of and pride in this most amazing woman comfort you. Agreed. So Shireen is going off to work. Thanks for hanging out with us. By my American friends, and thank you for your condolences. Of course. This is it's crazy. Crazy day.
The timing with the new prime minister is also just kind of interesting, and sort of like how that, I don't know if that has any sort of impact on it. The fact that there's also a new prime minister, I mean, that's a rough orientation, this new prime minister. It's like, oh, by the way, the king just died. It's like, okay. It's like, that's not fair. I wasn't set up for this.
Yeah. I would have. I mean, they knew that obviously she was getting up there in years, so it's like, on the one hand, there's always a possibility that something would happen. I would imagine that the prime minister would understand that going in, but I mean, not quite this suddenly.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot of change for the British people all at once.
Yeah, this is where I break up my jokes. It's like, the new prime minister goes to meet the queen and the queen dies. Coincidence? Oh.
Oh no. Don't start rumors that way. Oh man. That's crazy. Well, anyway, I think do you have any final thoughts on this? I think for me that about
That
does
wraps it up.
All righty. Cool. Well, thanks guys for joining us to talk about this. Going through this momentous day. So my condolences to everyone in the UK. But I will be definitely watching for the state funeral. That's going to be a huge event. So, and then obviously the coronation, that's going to be probably the coronation, I would imagine, is going to be some time away, because, like I was reading earlier in the live stream.
Yeah, probably 6 months to a year, I would imagine.
Yeah, because it's like, you don't want to have it too soon, because that's considered disrespectful or whatnot.
And plus, because it's literally a royal coronation, it's got to be a big to do. So we got to, put all of our plumes together. So that's going to take some time.
Yeah, for sure. Peggy Cole, one last super chat. Thanks so much for your super chat. Says, I wonder how Charles is going to handle the winter ahead. Man, I don't know. A lot of people are expecting a cold winter, and there are issues with oil and gas. So, yeah, a lot of people are reticent. But maybe that's going to be coming down to the prime minister more so than King Charles. But we shall see. Anyway, that about does it. Thanks so much for joining me, and thanks for joining me, Kurt. It was great to have you hanging out for the last half of this. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.